And why is the study of Egypt so important in understanding ancient history in general?
Yeah, because for me, I know it, and I think for so many Africans in the diaspora, it pushes back against this white supremacist fallacy that there was no history in Africa.
Once again, welcome to another segment of Reclaiming History. The excerpts you just heard are from my upcoming interview with Dr. Solange Ashby. Stay tuned. Dr. Solange Ashby received her PhD in Egyptology with a specialization in ancient Egyptian language and Nubian religion from the University of Chicago. Dr. Ashby's expertise in sacred ancient languages, including Egyptian hieroglyphs, Demonic and Coptic, Ethiopic, Biblical Greek, and Biblical Hebrew, underpins her research into the history of religious transformation in Northeast Africa and the Middle East. Her first book is Calling Out to Isis, the Enduring Nubian Presence at Philae, and that's what we'll be talking about later. She is also a founding member of the William Leo Hansberry Society. You can find out more about the William Leo Hansberry Society by visiting hansberrysoc.org.
So I am so excited to have you on the show. And so I'm just thrilled that we have you in the discipline to bring a different perspective. Egyptology, you are an Egyptologist. You are I've got to make sure I say this right. I always say nubiologist, but I don't know if that's the correct.
That is correct.
Nubiologist and an archaeologist. I mean, you're sort of like the female Black Indiana Jones.
Wow. Well, thank you. I have to say, let me just qualify. I cannot claim the title of archaeologist. I did go along on an archaeological excavation in Sudan, but really I was there to observe the professionals at work and then to see if they pulled anything with text out of the ground, because I really am a text-focused person, and that is sort of a divide in the field. Either you're digging up artifacts or you're reading and interpreting ancient texts that are either on them or on, papyri or temple walls, that kind of thing.
For my listeners, Egyptology as a discipline has been around since what, the early 1800s?
Yes. Maybe even late 18th century, Champollion was making a crack at figuring out how to read the hieroglyphs. I think that was 1799, but really then the early 19th century is when the discipline took off.
Not too far after America established themselves as a free country, free of Britain, 1776, you have 1796 or so, 20 years later, we have this new discipline that is just starting. And from 1796 approximately until the current day, you are the first African-American female Egyptologist.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That's unbelievable.
Yes. Yes.
And so why is besides the fact that it's taken what? How many hundred years is that, doctor? I don't even know. I can't.
Too many.
Your accomplishment, what you've done as the first African-American female Egyptologist, it's groundbreaking. You are a trailblazer. You are the one on which the hopes of so many people who have studied Egyptian culture for so many years from the outside, like myself.
Yes.
There was no one else that we could call. We could say, listen, explain this to me, because so much of the language is in French. The translations are in French. They're in German, and those languages are not available to the average person.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, and that's academic gatekeeping going on there. I should say that, and I'm sure that you are aware that there have been African Americans for at least 100 years who have made a very serious study of Nile Valley civilizations. And we just founded an organization to try to bring more African Americans into this discipline. And we've named our organization after William Leo Hansberry, who was doing this already in 1922 at Howard University. Got his degree at Harvard, studied at University of Chicago, that's my alma mater, but he was never able to claim the PhD designation of Egyptologist, although he was infinitely well educated in the field. And so it has just been a history of exclusion of our people from these academic disciplines that, as you know yourself, being a student of this civilization, that doesn't mean that we were not studying this civilization. It just means that it took that much longer for any of us to earn a PhD in the discipline.
Mm-hmm. And why is the study of Egypt so important in understanding ancient history in general?
Yeah, because for me, I know it, and I think for so many Africans in the diaspora, it pushes back against this white supremacist fallacy that there was no history in Africa. So if you have only Europeans who are serving as Egyptologists, who are those professionals who can interpret the ancient language and culture, they get to make up a narrative wherein it was the great white race that came and began this amazing civilization somehow or other on the African continent. So that's James Henry Breasted from the University of Chicago, where I studied. And so, but that is simply not true. This is an ancient African civilization, and the fact that it is one of the very oldest and most spectacular already makes clear the lie that there was no history in Africa. And I want to add that, Egypt is not the only place that amazing history has been occurring and continues to occur on the African continent.
So, Doctor, are you saying that the Egyptians did not look like Elizabeth Taylor?
Yes, I am. I'm definitely saying that they are and have always been African people. And that phenotype of Elizabeth Taylor with the pale skin and the blue eyes, if it ever did appear in Egypt, would not have shown up until the Macedonian Greeks got there. And I tend to think of them as being more of a swarthy European look with brown hair and brown eyes. So yes, less likely to be an Elizabeth Taylor look. Certainly not in the foundational periods of the Old Kingdom, that phase when the Giza pyramids were built, or the Middle Kingdom, that classic phase when most of the amazing ancient Egyptian literature was written. That was all African. And it was not until later periods when Egypt started being conquered by outside forces, the Persians, the Assyrians, then the Greeks and the Romans, that we start getting a more diverse population of people moving into this incredibly rich area along the Nile.
If you're just tuning in, you're listening to another segment of Reclaiming History. I have a very special guest on the line.
Dr. Solange Ashby, Egyptologist. She just published her first book,
Calling Out to Isis, The Enduring Nubian Presence at Philae. It's published by Gorgias Press.
There's a special discount code created for Reclaiming History listeners. It's Nubia, spelled Nubia. Get a 30% discount by visiting gorgiaspress.callingouttoisis at www.gorgiaspress, that's Gorgias Press. Remember, that discount code is Nubia, spelled Nubia. Thank you, Dr. Ashby, for joining us this evening.
Thank you, too. Nice talking with you.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye now.